It's been over 18 months since I made my first video on the Underground Pass quest. In that video, I outlined why it's the best quest in RuneScape. But doing the Underground Pass on my Iron Man a while ago, it became clear that there had been some changes to the quest during the release of the Song of the Elves, and several additional dialogue and narration pieces had been added. It is because of these new pieces of information that I believe there is quite a bit of evidence to suggest that the events that take place during the quest might not be quite as they seem, and that the Underground Pass as we know it doesn't exist. One of the first things we encounter on our journey after we enter the tunnels is our friend Koftik in front of a raised bridge. Prior to Song of the Elves, Koftik would give us the cloth we would use to light our arrows and cut the rope support, and we'd be on our way. Now, instead, Koftik tells us that he's found this abandoned campsite, and that if we rummage through the campsite, we can find the cloth we need. The abandoned campsite probably belongs to the warrior Randus, who we only know about through this diary which he left at the camp. Randus simply wanted to prove his might as a warrior by coming to the Underground Pass. However, the whispers and voices he heard most likely drove him insane. He claimed in his diary that he heard voices that asked him to give in to his nature, and this will come into play later. Before the large grid trap, we speak to Koftik again, who is now hearing voices himself and quoting Pulp Fiction or the Bible, one of the two.
The path of the righteous man is beset on all sides by the inequities of the selfish and the tyranny of evil men.
After we leave Koftik, we find and destroy the 4 orbs of light, which act as keys that allow us to descend under the well in front of the Zamorakian altar. As weird as it is, wells seem to be a pretty common theme in this quest. We descend down this well, we toss the paladin's badges into a well of fire, we toss Iban's doll into a well right in front of him, and then there is the well of voyage, finally at the end of the journey. It is after we descend down this first well that things start to get a bit weird. Quickly after descending the well and navigating some more traps, we find the caged unicorn followed by the 3 paladins. These were the events that made me consider the possibility of something just being off here, even before the Song of the Elves quest came out. This is what I said back then.
And it seems that the first step to Iban controlling you is for you to give in to the will of violence. This is evident from the first slaves we encounter, whose mad ravings seem to fetishize violence, to his persistent whispers, and finally our entry into Iban's domain, granted to us only after the slaughter of the 3 knights. It is because of this that I often wondered if the knights we slaughtered were actually not real, and instead some kind of bizarre test set there by Iban or Cardia.
I was convinced that the unicorn and paladins were tests designed to keep those with innocent souls outside of Iban's domain. I hypothesized that Iban can't exert any influence over people who have innocent or pure souls, and that is why you have to kill the unicorn and paladins and throw their seals into the well of fire before entering the final area. The point being that the paladins and unicorn aren't real. Just think about it. There is 0 context for why there's a random caged unicorn and then suddenly 3 seemingly normal knights. They address you as if there's nothing out of the ordinary, and they don't make you aware of any kind of mission they are on or anything. I suppose the camp we encountered before the bridge could have been the paladins' camp instead of the warrior Randus, but if they came into the pass with a specific mission in mind, wouldn't they tell you about it, or maybe ask for help in some way? The most bizarre thing is, why do the paladins' badges along with the unicorn horn unlock the final doorway? The magic in the door would have had to have been purposefully coded in a way to unlock when the 4 objects were thrown into the well. So who or what are these things? It's my belief that they are basically shades, magically constructed illusions that are set in place to ensure that only the worthy enter the final area. And I don't think these illusions stop with the paladins and unicorn. If the unicorn and paladins aren't real, then we would have to ask the same questions regarding the other entities inside the pass, like the spider Calrag, the three demons, or even Iban himself. You see, there is another character inside the Underground Pass, a character we don't actually deal with because it is assumed that we just aren't powerful enough to. The witch Cardia will kill you if you try to speak to her, so we have to find her cat and use that as a distraction to get by her and steal the book on Iban's creation. Cardia is still inside the Underground Pass. She was the one who resurrected Iban. How do we know more of what went on inside the pass wasn't something that she had a hand in? I was starting to think this more and more when I reread the dialogue of the mad prisoners you encounter earlier. Remember when I said that the Unicorn Paladin test was designed to keep those with innocent souls out? Well, what if passing this test was actually what doomed you? If you return to the prison cells above and speak with any of the prisoners, you can see that these are all individuals who are struggling to reconcile their darker and more sinister side. One prisoner proclaims to you, "Danger, everywhere danger, but not from man nor beast. This is the danger inside of you." And another prisoner quotes the famous lines of Macbeth. The Shakespearean play Macbeth is the story of a man who is prophesied by some witches to become the king of Scotland, and this prophecy then leads him down a road of madness, hallucinations, and terrifying dreams that lead him to chaos and murder. In the famous soliloquy, Macbeth grapples with what he describes as the darkness inside his own heart. I also believe there is a chance that one of these mad prisoners is in fact the warrior Randus, whose journal we find at the beginning. Remember when he had wrote that he had heard voices asking to give into his nature? They were referring to what every great warrior has to grapple with, the desire to cause violence, the darkness inside our hearts. This prisoner that shouts about killing a whole village is probably him. The traditional view of this quest is that Iban is the force that is causing all these people to go mad. I don't think it's Iban. Do you guys know what the medical term for a heart attack is? It might seem a bit random. It's called a myocardial infarction. Cardial. Cardia. The Greek word for heart is cardia, the dark heart inside us all. Cardia is the one driving the prisoners insane. Cardia is the one who created the bizarre morality test with the unicorn and paladins. Cardia resurrected Iban, and she split his essence into the 4 components of blood, shadow, body, and mind. It's all her creation. Cardia is the Underground Pass. This explains why Iban is so easy to defeat. He was a Kintran knight raised into undeath by Cardia, and he had his body and soul bound to outside objects and creatures. And what was he resurrected to do? He's barely a threat to us when we enter his central chamber. Iban is essentially no more real than the unicorn and the paladins. He is just like the previous things we encountered, a victim. He never even casts any magic at us directly. He just sits on his little throne and taunts us and watches helplessly, or perhaps hopefully, as we cast the doll into the well of fire in front of him. And finally, at the end of it all, the game interjects with that little bit of extra omniscient narrator flavor text. Text that was added after the Song of the Elves. But what about you, adventurer? Did the voices not affect you? Your mind is filled with strange images. A unicorn, a boulder, some paladins. They seem real. But were they? Koftik leads you back through the winding caverns to the entrance. But it feels like part of you has been left behind. Well, I guess it's kind of nice to have a little bit of confirmation. I hope you liked my theory about the Underground Pass. In my first video, I wondered why we had never dealt with Cardia. But now, even as I see her as the prime antagonist in this quest, I understand why we could never hope to defeat her. It would be hard to deal with the darkness inside our own hearts, as it would always be there, so perhaps it's just best to ignore it. Hello everyone, I hope you enjoyed my second video on the Underground Pass. I wasn't lying when I said it was my favorite quest. If you haven't seen my original video on it, you should probably check it out. It's my favorite video that I've made on the channel. And I want to let everyone know that currently I'm playing RuneScape 3 again, and I made an Iron Man, and I think it's pretty fun, so we'll have to see where that goes. But for now, that's all, so see ya.